the effective team management. I would like us to have this, make this session an interactive one so that we all, how did they say it now? So I want everybody to be engaged in these comms. I don't believe in one man silence, so we're all going to be speaking together. So thanks, Tolu, for the opportunity to come and do the presentation. So I'm not taking it for granted, okay? So I've known Tolu for a number of years now, so, and it's been my pleasure to be here as well. So tonight we'll be talking about the effective of team management. I'm sure each one of us has been in one group or the other, and even maybe we've managed one activities or the other, either privately or in our corporate world. So we're just going to be talking about effective management within the cross-functional team. So my name is Olubumi. I'm a Scrum Master. So if I'm talking, sometimes I'll be relating it to the Scrum world, but feel free to chip in and also to ask any questions that you deem fit. Okay, so by the end of this session, so you'll be able to understand what is effective team management, as well as the benefit of it, the challenges involved, and the takeaways that is inclusive. So we start thus. Okay, I hope we are all ready. Are we? Please, I want us to speak.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. So I will start with what is management. At least some people study management at the university level. Some have managed maybe your home, your career, your life to start with. So let's start that. What is management? Management is the process of planning, organizing, maybe an event, as I rightly said, leading people, or properly controlling resources to achieve a purpose. Maybe it could be money, it could be time, it could be party, it could be helping someone to achieve their aims. So in order to achieve a specific goal, not just achieving the specific goal, but it has to be within a valuable timeline, I call it. So now that we've understand what management is, now let's look at what is team management. Okay, so what is team management? The way I've put it here is that team management is the art of creating the condition where people can work well together, and maybe through clarity of purpose, trust, communicating, and sharing in one's responsibility. So as I said earlier on, that most of us will have engaged in one or two things. So my question to the house tonight is, and I hope you're all ready, so you're going to unmute yourself, is that okay. So in one word, I want you to tell me what makes a great team. You can just unmute yourself and just say it. What do you think makes a great team?
They collaborate with trust.
Yes.
So they are able to work together, really.
Well, that's a good one. Yes, interesting. Another one?
Harmony.
Harmony, yes. So collaboration, trust, harmony, yes.
Ability for a team to work together in a safe environment, because if you are working together, if there is trust, if there is everything, and the place is not safe for work, it's not going to work out. So it has to do with safe environment. also.
Okay, kind of promoting psychological safety, right? Yeah,
Yes.
nice. We can also say, effective management, it holds you to be something like accountability. We can also say, what makes a great team? You have to be accountable for whatever you're doing. You have to be transparent. You have to, like one of us said, collaboration. Then we also have to respect one another. You understand? Because if you don't respect one another, there will be conflict of interest. So that is, thank you, everyone. So I really like the team. We're all, so effective management, I would say, it's not just about controlling people or probably telling people what to do. It's about creating an environment where team can succeed together, as we've rightly said. We've mentioned it: clear communication, shared goals, psychological safety, collaboration, continuous improvement. All this also help to create an effective team management within us. So now, I will say, let's look at a team management like, I don't know, maybe some of you like sports. Each player, if you think of a sports team, each player, they have a different roles, but they share the same objectives. So can someone tell me what is the objectives?
Win the game at the end of the day.
Brilliant. That is it. So what now happens if one player stop communicating or stop competing with the other player? So what's going to happen?
They will all struggle, or the other team will win.
Brilliant. So the performance will drop. So the same thing happens when we are in a workplace and if you are managing a team, you don't manage your team well. So there will be lapses, the performance will drop, you will not be able to achieve your target at the end of the day. So this is what happened. So thank you all for that question. So what you've just said is what made a team to be successful, and that is what we call effective team management. Okay, so now let's look at the key principles of effective team management. I've just put these few ones here, like building a shared foundation. That is, for you to be able to manage a team, you must have a foundation, you must have a purpose, you must know your team, you must be able to identify your team. What team do you want to? How do you want to manage them? What are the roles? In our organizations, for every team, there is a role clarity. There is team identity. Who is doing what? What team is working on XYZ? What is the purpose? Why are we aligning? So that is one of the key foundations of building a shared foundation. That's one of the key effective of a team management. Then let's look at psychological safety. One of us has already mentioned that. If you don't have a psychological safety within a workplace, then there's a problem. So we need to normalize the way we are asking questions. We need to ensure that everyone is safe, no one is intimidated. And also we need to kind of show empathy, understand each other, at least be in other person's shoe. That is what psychological safety is. Ensure the environment is safe. And then that takes me to another one, strengthening communications. So if we have a effective team management, trust me, we'll all be speaking common language. Everybody will be, the conversation will be kind of structured. Then information will be clear. It will be visible. And there will not be, there will also be like clear understanding of what the teams are working on. Then if one of the key principles of effective management of team is that managing the health, the managing healthy conflicts. Some people say in their team they don't have conflict. I beg to disagree. there's no team that will not have a disagreement. If your team is, when I say disagreement, I don't mean in such a way that it will turn into a chaotic thing, but there should be a way whereby we can challenge each other, asking questions, why, what, if, how. So that is one thing, but the conflict in essence is not something that's going to turn physical. So that's why we have to kind of have a structure like a team working agreement that we are going to resolve conflict, how we are going to be collaborating. Then we also have to be able to separate ideas from identity. Kind of, if someone is asking question, don't let us hold that person, the actual person responsible. Let's look at the question the person is asking. For example, the fact that you don't like working with XYZ does not mean if XYZ is asking question, so you are going to be showing aggression. No, you have to listen. It's what XY said tally with what we improve the team. It's what XY said is something that will make the team to perform better. So that's why I put it that separating ideas from identity. Then also using a neutral facilitation. So what I mean by neutral facilitation is that you have to have like open door policy, like a common ground, whereby everybody is free to speak, open door policy. You know, everybody is happy to facilitate. I can do this, but you want to know the idea behind each person's idea. So not just saying shutting people down. That is not part of the effective key management. So we have to manage healthy conflicts. Next slide, please. Okay, so one of the key principles also is supporting accountability and share ownership, you know, continuous improvement. Like, let's have like a short reflection, retrospective. I don't know. In my team, we always have, at the end of every sprint, we have a retrospective whereby we look at what can we do well, what can we improve. So what are the pain points that we are having? So all those kind of things is very good. And also we talk about celebrating progress. If anyone do something very well, you can just like, okay, let's celebrate one another. Well done, X, Y, and Z for doing this. You know, that will motivate that person the more. Even though it might be someone in your team that is not performing as much as you want that person to be, that does not say you should shut that person down. There's a word of encouragement. I believe you can do better next time. I believe you can do this. You know, all those little words of encouragement, it really, really goes a long way when you are managing people. Then facilitative leadership for mixed team. You know, you have to kind of, as I said, you have to be empathic. You have to show empathy. Then you have to be aware of what is going on around you. How do you handle it as a leader? How do you ensure that everyone is okay? How do you ensure that things are progressing well? So all those things are part of how a good leader will manage they're from Asian, you know, they don't talk, but you can tell they can build the code. So all those things, and when you are doing a retrospective, you want them to speak up. You want them to be able to bring forth ideas. So these people just believe that if they were talking against someone else, like they are giving like a feedback to someone, they believe they are reporting that person, and you can easily lose your job. So what I did was to try to call them one-on-one and be like, even though you've seen some things that are not right, that maybe someone is talk too much, or, you know, you can easily let me know. Then, not that you are reporting that person, I will be able to say to that person to be able to be mindful of the fact that they are taking much of the time. And if they have anything that does not relate to what we're talking up in the meeting, then they can bring it to the parking lot. It's not that you are reporting them. You understand? And also sometimes when you are managing team, you have to be careful of cultural diversity, because every culture have different ways of handling things. For example, if you're working with children that are born and bred in this environment, if you are doing something that is not right, trust me, they will just tell you straight to your face. But we that were born in Africa, that were come here, for example, if your parents are talking to you, you dare not even look at them in the face. Who born you? You have to be looking down. Even if they are telling you, if you want to say something, you just say, sorry, sir. Sorry, sir. Sorry, sir. Even what they're saying is wrong and you are right. You just have to keep sorry, sir. But here they don't say that. They will just tell you as it is. And it's not that they are being rude or anything. It's the culture where they grow up. So if you are managing such Gen Z in your team, so you have to be mindful of, okay, how you communicate with them, how you relate with them, so that they will not be like, oh, he's just picking on me, he's just doing this. So that is also part of what a leader of a team has to be mindful of. Any question what so far? And also, one of the key principles is that you need to have a active listening skills. You have to be attentive to what is going on around you, and you also have to be transparent. You can't be biased if you want to really manage your team effectively. Next slide, please. So when we talked about team management, so we've talked about you want to, as a leader, you're going to be accountable. You want your team to be responsible. You want your team to collaborate. You want, for example, if you are working with cross-functional team like developers, the UI, the QAs, the tech, the architects, product owner. So you have to find a way by which they are going to collaborate. But having said that, there will be challenges. So when challenges now happening, because managing people is very difficult, but you need to be patient in order for you to be able to manage them effectively. So when we're saying managing challenges, so what are the things that is likely to happen? Conflicts between two members. How do you resolve conflicts without being biased, without siding the other party? So you have to be on a neutral ground. You have to know how to manage the challenges very well. Then you also, in terms of project, if you are working on a project, what are the challenges that is going to affect your team from not delivering? Maybe there's a technical blocker. Maybe there's a dependency on another team that are not doing what they're supposed to do. You need to find a way to manage all those things to ensure that, okay, how do you manage it on time that does not really affect the deliverables of your project? How do you remove the blocker of maybe someone that is kind of laid back, maybe a QA that is not up to speed to test the developer's build? How do you manage all those team members? You need to find a way, find the balance to be able to manage all those people so that it will not turn out to be a blocker to you at the end of the day. And also, challenges could also arise from dependency team. For example, I'm currently working on a project. My developers, they are working up to speed, but unfortunately, the dependencies, the other team, they are about 3 months behind. So as a result of their own lapses, the project my team is working on that they've put so much hard work to, it has to be pegged because there's no way we can build the code, deploy it into the, push it into the pipeline, deploy it into the main branch, going into the first environment, if the other dependencies are not ready. It's not good. So that's what happens. So how do we manage that? So we just have to reach out to them and try to explain to them, okay, this is where team XYZ are. We have done this, we've done that. Could they please, what is blocking them? Is there any way we can support? Those are the things that I did to be able to resolve the challenges that is going to be affecting me in the future. Then again, when you are talking about challenges, it's always good to prioritize whatever it is. Then we've talked about challenges. So what are the resolutions? So the resolution is, don't just make up your mind that this is not working well. That's it. Go away. I don't want to see you. No, it doesn't work like that. So because you need, part of what I've said is you need to have empathy, then have a good listening skills, and then try to ensure that you are on top of things. So that's one of the things that will really, really help. You also have to focus on the facts. Don't beat about the bush. Be straightforward and don't be biased. So we have to hear each other, and we also have to encourage solution. So don't let it be one man's island that, okay, this is I'm the only one that is right here. Some other people might even have better ideas than you. Collaboration, we've mentioned it earlier. So we have to allow collaboration, encouragement, allow people to speak out. So that will also help. That's part of the way to manage and to resolve conflicts within the team. Then when we talk about handling blockers, I've talked about blockers. So what we need to look at is, as a leader that is managing a team, you have to have a foresight that who can help. How do I handle this blocker? Who can help me? Then you also have to look at what are the resources that are available, or what are the resources that I might need to help me. Then this one, you have to try to look for it, because that's one of the things that every company, every employer wants. If there is a blocker, they want you to unblock it. Just like when your zinc is blocked, what do? You look for plumber to help you unblock, so you enjoy the flow of the water when you are doing your washing up. The same thing also happen in anything. It might not even be like employment settings. It might just be in your own, maybe you're organizing things. So you just want to organize things that you want it to be smooth. What is it that might hinder you not achieving your aim? So all those things is what we refer to here as handling blockers. How do you resolve it? And then as a Scrum Master, even sometimes they said, Scrum Master, yeah, you have to help to remove blocker. I'm thinking, I don't remove any blocker. They say, oh, Olubumi, go and remove it. I said, no. We have to work together to find out how can we remove all this blocker. If a blocker, sometimes you might thinking that, okay, I can do this, I will get it done. I can do that, it's easy to do. Sometimes you might pass your ability. When such issue passes your ability or your power to get done or to resolve, what do? Then you escalate it to the people. Maybe in a company, you can escalate it to your boss, or maybe within a family, you know who to reach out to, or maybe a group. So maybe you are in a team, you have a president within your group, you know what to do. So sometimes if you are not able to resolve a conflict that is causing the challenges, then it's good to escalate it to the authority that you think can help you resolve it peacefully. Any question? Next slide, please. Okay. Okay. So now we're talking about team motivation here. So team motivation could be, team motivation and high-performing team. As I've been referencing, we're talking about team here. So think of whatever team is it. Is it within your family, outside, in the church, community, at workplace? So I put it here, ways to motivate team. So Tim, before we even discuss this, I want everybody to unmute and now tell me, what ways do you think you can motivate your team to become a high-performing team? So I don't want you to mention what I've put here. I just want something different. You can unmute yourself and speak.
Having some activities every now and then to build confidence and cut down tiredness.
Okay.
Yeah. Clear communication.
Yeah, that's one of it.
Having innovation days or innovation weeks to encourage team building or
Yeah.
team collaboration.
Yeah, that's good.
Do bit
So-
day for the team.
That's good. So now, one of the things that I would say, I have a question for everyone here. Please be honest. Okay. So the question I have is, looking at this, what motivates you at work or when you are within your team? What motivates you? Feel free to speak.
Work-life balance.
Work-life balance. What else? So I wanted to ask this question. Do motivated team perform significantly better or not? And why?
So it all depends on what is motivating them. So, but at the end of the day, they may perform better in terms of, if you just generalize it as motivated team, that again, performing better, it can be relative. In what area? Are they writing the code? Are they just becoming a feature team where they're just pushing out code, or they're building quality product? So different mix anyway.
Okay. Another person?
I agree with what Tolu has said. I think depends on what's your motivation. If your motivation is a high pay, even if maybe if the work environment is toxic because they are paying you well, and that's your motivation, you'll perform, you'll do your job. But if you're one who you have, like I've said, work-life balance, you have a family, your workplace, your teammates understand that there are times when you won't be available to go and pick your kids. If really what you call where you finding your value is what will motivate you, I think. Or if it's, rewards, if they are recognizing you in a company, and that really means a lot. Some people, it doesn't mean much.
Yeah.
Shouting your name that you've excelled doesn't really mean much. To some people, it does mean a lot. To some people, it's, so what? I do excel anyway. So yeah, it's what is that? So I think every person, finding every person's motivator. Is it motivator? Does that make sense? Finding what motivates people in your team and being able to give that, I think that would make them effective.
Yes, thank you. Everyone is right, and also what motivates A might not be what will motivate B. Everybody's motivation is different from the answer that I've just got, and it is different in different type of context or in environment where you are working in. But one thing I just want to encourage us is, if you are a leader managing a team, let us bear in mind that motivation does not come from pressure. Motivation comes from purpose, as someone has already said, recognition, growth opportunities, supportive leadership, kind of celebrating wins. Most people will say the greatest motivation is increase in salary, bonuses, all those rewards that you get. And some people's motivation is fulfillment of purpose, like doing what you enjoy doing, doing what you enjoy doing best or most. That is what motivates. So those are the kind of things. And when we are leading, when we are managing people, so those are the kind of things that we have to put into practice to be able to encourage or properly motivate our teams. I've just put a little bit here that celebrate achievements, celebrate wins in your meeting, or you can say, oh, team, I'm very proud of you. You are all awesome. I love this, kind of just little words of encouragement like that. So, and another one is you can just say, okay, maybe in a meeting, maybe during retro, you can just create like a little bubbles and be like, okay, everybody just write word of appreciation. Who do you want to say thank you to? So everybody will just be typing, I want for whatever during the sprint, I want to thank so and so, all those kind of a thing motivates people more than salary, because they feel like, oh, people really appreciate their efforts. And also it could be recognized contributions, like applaud, depending on whatever. It could be money, it could be gift, it could, that, and also encourage learning. Some people, they need to be encouraged before they can learn, and some people, they like show and tell. Not everybody likes reading, but some people you can kind of encourage learning, like knowledge sharing within your workplace. You can just say, okay, so if anyone has something they want to share within the team, please feel free. You don't have to create. That's what I do. I say, you know what, you don't really have to create any PowerPoint slide. Just come up here, tell us 5 minutes. We all learn something. And at the end of the day, we appreciate the person. That's what we call knowledge sharing. And I also do something I call it surgery. Surgery in the sense that once every Friday. So we will just meet up for 30 minutes. If any of the developers are having issue with their codes, because I don't know, sorry to say this, if we have any developer in the house, some of these developers, they're just so much buried in their code that it could be just that comma or semicolon that will not make the code to run successfully. But because they've been staring at it for hours, for days, they might not see it. But what I try to do in my team is, after preaching psychological safety, so I create something every Friday. We always have like a surgery, so that if any developer is having any issue, I would just say, just share your screen. Let us look at your code. Let's try to provide solutions. So with that, it kind of help to encourage people learning, people to bring their problem forward. And also, another thing is maintaining work-life balance. Who would not like that? Everybody wants that. So, and also ways to build a high-performing team. We've talked it at the beginning, trust. Not only team, even within our children, our families, trust is a powerful word. So let's trust each other. Then let's share knowledge. I've mentioned that. Then problem solving together. I've mentioned that. Then continuous improvement. Let us encourage that. Not just improve this and end of story. Let us encourage continuous improvement. That's how we'll learn. And, like there's this Stockman model is about, when you have a team, they have the forming stage, the numbing stage, the storming stage, the performing stage, and the dissolution stage thereabout. So for that different stages, people go through different cycles. So as a leader, so it's always good to manage your team based on what we've been talking about. So what I've tried to put there, this logo is, I copied from Google. This is not my handwork anyway. So for high-performing team, the characteristics. So let's start from the red. We have clear purpose, psychological safety, which is very important. Then we've mentioned trust, effective communication. We've mentioned that role clarity. Everybody know what they're doing. Then resilience, then continuous learning. So those are the 7 important keys for a high-performing team. Any question? Next slide, please. Okay, so after all said and done, so I would just want us to have these little key takeaways. That 1, strong communication actually brings alignment. Trust is very important because it creates a psychological safety. Then in Scrum ceremonies, I've mentioned that. Let us support the Scrum Master, the delivery manager, collaborate, speak up, shout out is encouraged. That's when we know. But also continuous improvement also drives success. Then the Scrum Master will enable the team to be able to perform at its best. So that is what I have to say. Any question for me? So this will take us to the end of my presentation. Thank you. So questions. So you can unmute yourself. If you have any contribution, if you have something you want to add to it, please feel free to unmute yourself and let's learn from each other.
Thank you very much for that short and concise session. Please, if you have any question or anything you want to add, so as we are here as well, this is a team where 1 or 2 people gather. It's becoming a team. It doesn't have to be continuously at place of work or official, and then how we relate with each other on a daily basis. We also go to an impact on how we eventually relate when we are in official space. And she has gone through what she does on a day-to-day basis. So I have a little question. Have you in your current team, have you encountered a conflict before that you had to intervene, and then how did you go about mediating? How did you go about solving or have you encountered a conflict that had there's need to mediate?
In my team, I wouldn't say there's a conflict, but within the practice, yes. Because in my team, they call me that I nurse them like a mom. In order to get the best out of all my developers, I try to be in their good record so that it's like tit for tat. So when I want them to work like a jacquard, they have to work for me like a jacquard. Sorry to say. But what happens is when there's a conflict, what you can do is, like they said that there's 2 sides to a coin. So it's better you approach the party involved separately, get their side of the story. And when everyone is talking, everybody will be talking something favorable to their side. Try to put yourself in other people's shoe and listen very well. So from your listening skills, you'll be able to add 1 or 2 things down that will be able to tell to that person that, oh, maybe you are in the wrong, you are on the right side. And when you're saying someone is on the wrong side, one thing I've learned in this culture is that you have to be mindful of how you present your case to people, or else they're going to think that, oh, you are picking on them. So, we have to be mindful with the choice of our words, even if someone is doing something wrong. So when you are going to be giving them feedback, you have to, first of all, reiterate what they've said, just to make sure that you didn't miss out anything. Then with that, you'll be able to now liaise okay, this is what A did wrong, this is what B did right. So how can you now mediate? Look for ways. Is it something that you have to set up a meeting with all of them, and you will be the chair? So you don't have to start blaming, you're wrong in this, you're wrong in that. No, when you bring all of the party together, all you just want to say is you identify the problem, you identify what you think was wrong, and you identify the solution. You understand? And you don't give room for blame game. That is one thing that will escalate it. So I believe that is how I would do it anyway. I don't know whether I answer your question correctly, but if anyone is on the team, you also feel free to answer that question.
Yes, thank you. When there's no right or correct answer, it's just as per time, as per it comes, what is involved in your, even my teams I've heard on before, there really been no conflict like that will be, but at side effect. So there was one just where I was before now, where our program manager seemed to one of the team member as very high and handed, to the extent that to him he felt being bullied. And he came to me. In that instance, there's nothing I can do. I just have to tell him to because it's our Oga. So I would like to you. So I just have to tell him that okay, you should approach it this way, you should look at it. She's always like that, blah blah blah. And luckily, in very short time, the whole project got disbanded, and then everybody had to move separate ways. I was quite happy because I didn't know what to do. I won't lie to you. So
it's kind of dicey, because one of the things that make me smile is, when you go for a job interview, like they will ask you, have you dealt with a difficult stakeholders before?
same story.
How do you tell them you are dealing with a difficult stakeholder when you don't even know that maybe the person interviewing you is the most difficult stakeholder you're going to be working with? So the best way is you have to be diplomatic. Because in all my interviews, if they ask me such a question, have you worked with a difficult stakeholders before? And I'll just smile. I'll be like, this person is very idiotic from the pit of hell. But I would just say, I would just put on like a nice smile. I would be like, okay, I don't see anyone being difficult. But one thing I can say is maybe people can come across in a negative way when they are under pressure of work, which is not their fault. You understand me? So with that, you see the way I've roped it, that you are not actually difficult, but maybe the pressure of the work is what is making you to be more difficult at the time. You get what I'm saying? So that is what happened, because some people, for example, some people, they just have a mindset that they don't like working with blacks. Some people, they have a mindset that they don't like working with Nigerian people, because they believe that we are kind of, the way we're talking, we are aggressive and we don't back down. You get what I'm saying? But the main thing is you don't get to see the other side of them, but you just have to present your case like in a neutral way, so that they will not be like, oh, okay, this is this person. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Even though when you know the truth, sometimes you can try to paraphrase it. For example, I have a guy in my church.
You paraphrase the truth.
You paraphrase it, Noni. I have a guy in my church. He wants to become the reverend. He went for the interview. They've been asking him all the question he's been saying answer. One person just come across and say, okay, if you have a gay couple in your church, if gay people approach you as a reverend that you should join them in holy matrimony, what would you do? Would you join them? And this guy said, no way. You understand? He said, lie, it will not happen. How can he join the same people together, same sex together for holy matrimony? It is not in the Bible. Unknowing to him, the guy answering the question is gay. So that's how he didn't get that job. So that's why when you know your facts sometimes, you know, the English people can be so cheeky and be rude to you, but they have a way of saying it slowly, but in a very rude way. So you should know the way to kind of send it back to them, the silly question they were asking you, how you respond back to them.
All right, thank you very much. Does any other person have any question? So if there's no question, we just want to say thank you again, Olubumi, for taking this up. I just approached you just a few days ago and you step in. Thank you very much.